And now, podcasting from the sun-scorched desert Southwest, weighing in at a combined total of 340 pounds, Brad Winchester, Tyler McDowell Blanken, are Gimmick Infringement.
Welcome, everybody, to the Gimmick Infringement Podcast. I am Brad Winchester, and with me, as always, is my tag team partner, Tyler McDowell Blanken. Tyler, it is Sunday as we record this. It's still hot here in Arizona, unnecessarily so. I believe we were talking about this, and you said last week you had about a high of 107 up in the valley. We hit 104 here. It's September. What's going on here?
Right. And in Flagstaff, it is a perfect 74 degrees as a high. I know some people who are NAU students or just live in Flagstaff, and they're really enjoying it now. This winter, though, Brad, they're going to be cold and covered in jackets and snow. So we're going to be all right. But for now, you're right. I think yesterday here, it's like 114 was the stated high. I don't know if we quite reached it. But I know our local meteorologists were talking about, you got to prepare because it's about to be a hot September weekend. So we know the vibes here.
I think we hit just north of 100. So I think we were at 101 or 102 here. And yeah, I wasn't enjoying any of that. I stayed inside most of the day. And well, we did do the Trader Joe's run. That was pretty epic. If you weren't listening to this, you don't have a Trader Joe's anywhere near you. I am so sorry for you. I love this place. It has the most random, ridiculous stuff. Somebody pointed out that all Trader Joe's branded like cereal and other things look like cartoon cereal boxes. Like they don't look real because you have Joe's O's or whatever for Cheerios, and it looks like something you would make to not have some kind of brand infringement. It's pretty amazing, and I love it there. I love all the random fall collection of stuff. And we spent some money there, and it was good. It was a lot of fun. Nice day out to go do some shopping. Well, let me rephrase that. Nice day in to do some shopping because it was fully air conditioned and wonderful. And then immediately go home and go and take care of a friend's dogs and kind of lounge around. It was a pretty nice, relaxing day. And Tyler, before we get into anything wrestling related, we got to talk about this. We brought it up last week. I think in the post show, but it might have been in our production meeting. We got to talk about butter knives for a second here. What is it about the butter knife that is a kind of male, white, middle-aged, and over multi-tool? I don't understand that the butter knife is sort of the go-to for all things. What is your experience with this? And then I'll tell why I brought it up last week.
For sure. We share a lot in common, as you know, Brad. And this last weekend really surprised me. I did not realize we can add this to the list that we have fathers, both white men of a certain age, who have used the butter knife for all things. And typically everything except its stated purpose of spreading some butter. So I think my dad's used butter knives over the years. Gosh, man, for like household appliances, to fix things, to get batteries out of remotes.
I had a screwdriver, a pry. Yeah.
And he's well versed in screwdrivers and all that other good stuff that you can get at hardware stores. But the butter knife is his go-to when he needs to solve something. I don't know, man. It's kind of like a security blanket. It's a cheap tool that can be used for many purposes. That's my experience, though, is over the years just seeing my pops use it for anything and everything around the house.
Absolutely. It's a letter opener, a box cutter. It is a...
Yes and yes.
The screwdriver thing, I think maybe it's because the handle's more ergonomic than the wide base of a screwdriver. And it's
great use of ergonomic. Yes.
I don't really understand why, but so we bought my father I think we got this for Father's Day. We bought him a Camaro, a 1960s Lego Camaro. So before people were like, on a teacher's salary, you bought a full Camaro?
That's where my mind was. You got my man a full size. Okay, no, we got him a smaller one.
I can't be doing that with a Chevy Aveo parked in my driveway.
We got back.
Yeah, we got him. Yeah, the jet costs too much, so we can't afford the car. we have to take the 19 bus. So my dad got this Lego thing, and all new Lego sets, for those of you listening who haven't actually used a Lego set, built one in the last probably 15 years, or are of a certain age, especially my age or older. The Lego instructions, first of all, come with clear steps. And they even tell you now, like, what parts you need for this step. The old school instructions was, here's a picture, figure it the hell out. Just find whatever goes there. Hope you don't miss a part. Good luck, pal. And the new sets also come with this orange tool that has sort of a plastic pry piece at the end, and then a brick grabbing kind of gimmick so you can pry pieces apart. And then you have the thin piece that you can get in between in case you have to pry them apart. If they're super stuck, you can just wedge it in between where they seal, pop it open. So I got pictures from my mom and my dad, and it was that of my dad building it, and they showed me the complete set. And you could see very clearly on like the side door piece where these little scraped parts that are obviously the tiny serrated edge of the butter knife that is just, he slipped trying to pry it apart. I'm like, they gave you a pry. You had a plastic pry that is specifically designed for this kind of operation. And yet you went to the drawer and pulled out a butter knife and just carved up that Lego set.
The man knows what works for him.
Yes.
Well, one may say stuck in his ways, one may say stubborn, but he knows what works for him. My dad is the same way. Who needs instruction manuals? My dad's maybe used 20% of the instruction manuals we've had over our lifetime.
As sure as there's going to be a pair of white athletic shoes that are probably going to be called sneakers, there's going to be a white man of a certain age holding a butter knife, ready to do some house maintenance.
They're the best. And they're so perseverant. And my dad, like, I just think of all the things my dad's fixed over the years. I mean, now you have YouTube and other DIY sort of supportive materials. But back in the day, Brad, before the internet, before all these apps, I think our dads were just out here. True OGs, these men are.
Yeah, well, you had to go to, like, I asked you a few weeks back if you knew what a Do It Center was. And Picture Rocks Hardware has a Do It Center, which is a kind of a national hardware brand akin to like a lowercase Ace Hardware or True Value. They're usually much smaller, but we had the Delta Do It Center near where we lived. And it's like, I can't fix this thing. I'm going to go to the Do It Center, and they have all these repair manuals all over the place where it's like, here's how to fix a fridge. Here's how to fix a dryer. Here's how to fix your snow blower. Here's how to fix all of these things. And it's just sort of, you found out, you bought the $3 part, and you went back and you figured it the heck out. And now it's just sort of like YouTube. All right, okay, I'll order that part on Amazon and I'll just wait for it. And that's it. That's the end of it. But to your point, they just had to figure it out. And that's a breed that I'm not sure still exists, which is incredible to me. But I'm going to make sure in probably like 10 years to make the butter knife my go-to tool in the house.
I'm right there with you. Special men, and hopefully we inherit that skill.
I totally agree. Tyler, this week we had quite a bit of wrestling, some wrestling news took place. We had lots of WWE stuff going on. We had AEW has had news in there with Proud and Powerful, the first full collision post Punk. That's booked by Bryan Danielson primarily, which was something, or we could call it Lucha Overground, or Lucha,
that's great.
What we want to call it.
Yep.
Pretty wild. So we have a lot to get into here. I am ready for your WWE question.
Yeah, it feels good to get back to our kind of classic format here. And I have a question for you. So WWE, I first want to shout out Chad Gable. Man, what a Monday for this man. I did not think we were going to see him. We always talk about giving flowers here, Brad. We talk about it on air and off. For Chad Gable to get these flowers in such a huge, visible way on Monday made me so happy. He obviously did not dethrone Gunther, but what an evening for the man. I'm sure this will come as no surprise. I want to ask you about Friday nights. I'm going to list off some talents here for you. Lashley and the Street Profits, Judgment Day, EO and Damage Control, Charlotte, LWO, AJ Styles, Solo, Jimmy and Paul, and of course, the megastar himself, LA Knight.
Yeah.
Here's my perfect. Without Roman Reigns, without Jey Uso, currently without Bianca Belair, she deserves that time off. I hope she takes as much vacay as needed. Without these talents, but especially those two faces of the bloodline in Roman and Jey, can the current active talent, and I would argue more so than the talent, the storylines that we're seeing on SmackDown, Brad, how much faith do you have that this current iteration of SmackDown can reach the heights of what we were seeing certainly last winter, earlier this year on the build to WrestleMania? Is it possible that we can see SmackDown cooking again like it was when we had Roman, Jey, Sammy, when it was really at its peak earlier in the year? Are you hopeful that we can get back there?
In terms of storyline, no, absolutely not. In terms of wrestling, yes, absolutely. Like, I think if anything, the talent that's currently there is better than what we had last year at this time in terms of active wrestlers, right? Like, I mean, look at who's there. It's all the people that were there that are going to get a bigger spot. So yes, please. Yes, please. So, of course, can't wait for Bianca to come back, and glad she's taking time off and doing all those things as well. So much like Jade, having carried that division for, I think anyway, that's my opinion.
Oh yeah, we will talk about some Jade Cargill. Don't you worry.
But I thought, between her and Jamie Hayter, but especially Jade in that TBS championship, she just carried so much of those shows, those rampages for the women's division, especially. Bianca did that for the main roster in the biggest show or the biggest shows for years, like 3 years now. It feels like she's been at the top of her game. So yeah, take a break. And I'm glad she's getting that. I'm so out on this Bloodline story. I don't get it. I don't know why they're doing it. Jimmy is not interesting to me right now. They're going to have to heat him up quickly because right now it is boring. Why is he still in the Bloodline? He's the one that turned first and he's just sort of welcome back. This doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense at all. And everybody's like, well, just play it out. They just play it out. I'm so sick of this shit. Like this played out a year ago. What was the peak of the Bloodline story? WrestleMania, right?
100% LA.
And then we just kept going, and then it fell, and then it crescendoed again, and we had Jey turning. If you're out, I'm out too. Super kick Jones. And then we're back. But not a good way at all. And they're like, we're in the third inning. Are we still in it? Can it be the ninth inning now? What are we doing?
That's a Triple H quote. Yes, it is. The third inning, man. That's nuts.
The third inning.
That's nuts. We got so 2026 is when we're gonna wrap this thing up.
That's too long. I'm not interested in this. Roman being gone is good. Roman being away is good. When he comes back, it'll matter more. But he needs to get some like big victories where he kills people and doesn't have any interference. Right now, he's like, I don't believe he's the strongest heel at all because he's won by nefarious means like every time for the last year or two. So have him fight people and put him in the guillotine again. I miss him doing that. He hasn't done that so long that people probably forgot he did it. That was his go-to during the Thunderdome era. Like he did that for a lot of people. Didn't he did that to KO once or twice, I think. He was just putting people out with the guillotine. I'd like to see that again. I just don't have storyline wise. You got LA Knight, and if you have LA Knight, you can have compelling. And he signed a new deal, and I think that you're going to get a lot from that. The Street Profits, I think you're going to get a lot from that. I'm not even saying that I think the storylines are going to be bad. I'm just saying they're not going to be what they were. There's nothing I think that's going to touch what it was with Sammy and KO and the Bloodline, and even Drew was in the mix when we had the War Game stuff about a year ago. Just coming up to that, right? Like we got another month and then we'll be in that point again. We had all of this stuff and it was just so good that I don't know that we're ever getting back to that. I also think that's kind of okay. New stories are better, but to get to those heights, it's going to take careful placement of where are we having shows and who can we heat up for those shows, because everybody at home will react to the crowd. And to Cody's point, I think people remember promos more than wrestling matches. I can't see that he's not. But they also remember moments as much as anything else. And those happen in wrestling matches. So there's a bit of both, right? Like the Stone Cold Crimson Mask wasn't a promo. It was Stone Cold bleeding on a mat, and that made him. He was already like here. That just knocked him up a stratosphere and made him a good guy because he's such a badass he wouldn't quit. They're going to have to figure out a way to do that with somebody. And right now, I kind of rather watch Raw. I love what they're doing with Shinsuke. I love it. I didn't like the end of his match with Seth, but I'm hopeful that it'll be another good one coming up here. I'd love to see him win, but there's just a lot of up in the air right now. I kind of like Charlotte with Shotzi. I'm not gonna lie about that.
That was a team I did not think I'd see.
No, and I kind of dig it. You have this older veteran and this like indie darling superstar that came up and went to NXT. People don't, man, listen, I know Shotzi's had some moments where she's like slipped and stuff, and people give her way too much crap about that. It's a friggin' live athletic event. Shit's going to happen. It's so frustrating to hear that. Like, oh, she sucks. She botches all the time. Dude, go watch some of Shotzi's independent stuff. Just go watch it. She's incredible. It just looks weird when nobody else knows how to do those things, and she's the only one doing it. And I kind of feel like that's a part of it, but I think that could be something there. There could be something with Charlotte and Shotzi. Io needs to keep the belt for a long time. There's Rhea exists. Rhea needs to be in a more prominent spot. Rhea needs to be 25% of the show at least. I would put her in half the show, have her begin it and end it every week, either with promos or tag fights or whatever. Have her do an intergender thing. I know they'll never put it on TV because they don't like doing intergender matches, but they do it at house shows occasionally. So hopefully they'll get over it and just do it. But I would love to see that. There's potential there. There's talent there. I don't know if we're ever going to get to this again. I don't know. The Bloodline feels like that was probably the pinnacle, unless something big happens here. They can get there with LA Knight. So I'll put it that way. And there's promise with whatever the Street Profits of Bobby Lashley are going to be, some sort of business, I hope.
Yes. I love those last 2 points in particular that you made, Brad. SmackDown, the genesis of this question is that I felt wholly underwhelmed by the main event angle of SmackDown. It was really interwoven throughout the show. AJ Styles versus Jimmy Uso, it doesn't really inspire me. Obviously, both incredibly talented dudes. AJ Styles, future Hall of Famer. Jimmy Uso, an integral part of, like you said, the biggest storyline in wrestling of the last decade. But for whatever reason, the two competing against each other just didn't really spark anything for me.
Supposed to legitimize Jimmy there, but
right, of course.
But he went away. He hasn't had a major feud. He was injured and gone for a long time, and they haven't heated him up. So it's like, it's just AJ Styles right now, and he's been there a long time. I hate to say it, but like they could have replaced him with at that moment with Dolph Ziggler, and people would have had the same reaction. Like, what are you doing with AJ, man? Like, no disrespect to Dolph, because I think he's probably the most underappreciated talent in the history of WWE.
Wow, that's bold.
I mean,
he's great.
Who do you put up there? He's been there since 2001 too.
Spirit Squad City.
Yes,
we remember,
and he's been good since then.
Kenny Dykstra is now in the back as an agent.
He has charisma. He's great in ring.
Yes,
he's one of the best sellers of all time.
Yeah.
All of those things, and yet he's not on TV, and they haven't figured anything out for him. So I just feel like he's crazy underrated, and AJ is not. He's appreciated, but like, you cooled him off and then put him in the main event against Jimmy, and we're supposed to care for some reason.
Yeah. The main event. Yeah, no. I would say solid episode of SmackDown, but the main event just left me thinking, like, man, are we going to reach where this thing was? Because at some point, I'll just close here by saying, you asked a question a few weeks back regarding the different sort of iterations of WWE, and are we on the verge of a kind of a new time for WWE? And I was a little hesitant at that moment, but Endeavor business aside, I think just from there's going to be a day where the Bloodline isn't running SmackDown, and we're really kind of in the thick of that here, especially as we prepare for, Brad, what you and I think is Roman dropping the title to Cody in Philadelphia in April. I think the ingredients are all here to usher in a new golden era for SmackDown. EO versus Asuka's coming up. Like you said, Street Profits and Lashley versus Judgment Day. Yes, please. LA Knight and Paul Heyman had an interaction. So maybe we get LA Knight versus Roman at some point. I don't really know. I think that's better than him messing around with Theory and Waller, as great as Grayson Waller has been. So the recipe's there, but I'll truly end by saying this. SmackDown is coming to Glendale in a couple weeks on the 22nd, so a week from this Friday. And based on the current storylines and what we've been getting, I don't feel compelled to buy a ticket. When we run through the list of these uber talented folks, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a really great roster on Friday nights. But I just need to see more from these storylines, especially at the top of the card, because AJ versus Jimmy just wasn't doing it. I don't even know why Jimmy turned on his brother. He said he doesn't want Jay to be like Roman. So now he's just back with Solo and Paul. I got questions, man.
Doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think there's a lot that could be done there with LA Knight, to your point. LA Knight is arguably is what I tried to say there. I sounded so hammered. Or arguably hotter than Cody right now. I think by a lot.
Might be hotter than John Cena.
Oh, he's definitely hotter than John Cena, but that's because John Cena will always be appreciated for him being here and for what he's done in the past. And don't you worry, I got a John Cena question for you next. So we'll transition right into it. But I think him coming back and doing one of his probably last big runs and Make-A-Wish stuff and all of that. How do you root against this guy for all he's given to the company, to the fans? It's pretty remarkable. So I'm not sure what they do, because I feel like LA Knight is probably the hotter money-making ticket right now than Cody. So they should have pulled the trigger on it last Mania. Now it kind of feels like they should wait. LA Knight should probably go first at this point if you want to strike while the iron is hot. And that's all I'm saying. So my question for you. So John Cena, he's been getting a lot online. This is like an online social media question. He's been getting a lot of, he is the best to ever do it. The GOAT, the greatest of all time. The BOAT, the best of all time. And also a lot of, he would eviscerate MJF on the microphone. So my questions for you, are those two items true? Are there caveats to those? Or should we simply not ever have these kinds of conversations?
The question itself just popped me. Boat is hilarious. Did we give Natalia credit for introducing us to the boat, or was that a thing before her?
I don't know if it was a thing before her. I know the first time I saw it wasn't even Natalia; it was LeBron. Mentioned as the boat.
LeBron versus MJ conversation.
Yeah, that's why I always say the boat and the GOAT are two different things. MJ's the greatest. LeBron's the best. Nothing will be bigger than Michael ever. It's just, it can't happen. It's not possible.
The man still has the hottest shoe out here.
Yeah, but
kids that weren't alive to watch him play. Even with the Wizards.
But people arguing that LeBron wouldn't beat him are out of their minds. Let me say, not out of their minds. But that you can separate the two and say one was greater than the other, because you can't have LeBron can't do these shoe deals and all these advertisements and be in Space Jam if Michael didn't do it first. So you kind of have to go great because he changed the way we do sports and
the debate is going to live forever. Yeah.
Live on forever, right? Like, it's not possible.
Barbershops, podcasts, grocery stores, it's going to be a thing.
I just think, I think about that sometimes where it's like, oh, he did a shoe ad and batteries and underwear and McDonald's and all these things. And, oh, that was the first time anybody had ever done that in a national scale. It was all local market sports stuff. Michael was the first one to go outside of that and be like, no, we're gonna make all my money is going to come from advertising, because he made hardly any money in the league when he was an active player, which is nuts to me. And then I think he took league minimum when he played for Charlotte because he was the owner. So it's like the money that he actually made is bonkers to me. But the first time I saw Boat on this little aside here is in reference to LeBron, and I was like, yeah, he's the best of all time, but I can't ever put him above. There's no LeBron logo that I look at and go, oh, that's LeBron. But you know who the hell Michael Jordan is, even if it's basketball.
Yeah, the logos. We're talking logos. MJ absolutely wins that clean. That's interesting. We may have to revisit this at some point. NBA season is coming up.
We do need to. Maybe we get some people on to
maybe
have a conversation.
I know some people who we work with. Shout out 19 Media. To answer your question though, Brad, greatest of all time. I noticed too, on speaking of SmackDown and even Raw, they've really made it a point to refer to Cena as the greatest of all time. That seems like a very pointed, like, oh, we're really emphasizing this. I don't know if they did that in his previous returns. Maybe I'm just noticing now. But they're saying,
but not like in a video package.
Every time, the greatest of all time, John Cena. Like, okay. So
kind of wonder how Rick feels about that, but go ahead.
You wonder, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm remembering your questions correctly, it's definitely a conversation worth having. So it's not option C for me. Number one, is he the greatest of all time for our generation? I would say yes, he is. And maybe to your point, Brad, some of this is me sort of, as I tend to do with these conversations, I take it outside of the field of play and I think about who they seem to be as people, and charitable. And I know I shouldn't, but I always factor that into my thoughts. But for all this man has done, again, when he was really on top, so we're thinking 2004 to 2014, give or take. Times were just different in terms of what we considered a quality match and booking and storylines. It was just much different than we are now. So I know his in-ring work, if you put it today, maybe it wouldn't necessarily fit as well, but for what he was doing, for how he carried the company on his back, when called upon, he could have an amazing match with anyone. I think of his feuds with AJ Styles and the like. He is the greatest of all time for our generation, in my opinion. In terms of the MJF and how that would look in a promo duel fashion, I don't think he would eviscerate MJF. I think it would be a pretty even match. Maybe Cena would come out on top because we need to give the man his flowers for being one of the best on the mic ever. He's on that Mount Rushmore as well. Would he go over on MJF in a promo battle? Yeah, quite possibly. But would he eviscerate Maxwell Jacob Friedman? I don't know if I'm ready to say that, man. I think MJF is that dude. I think it would be a lot closer than some folks online would make you think. What say you?
I agree with that second part. I think for me, he's in the same generation as Bryan Danielson, so there's no effing way I'm going to say he's the best of all. No, get out here.
True.
However, he is the greatest WWE superstar, probably of all time.
Carried him.
Yeah. So if you're just going to go everybody. What? No, because from an in-ring perspective, Danielson, I think, eats his lunch for ability and technique. But we can't ignore John Cena, because the reason that this popped up is those conversations, but then the time period where he was just doing like pop-up power bomb counters with Hurricane Ranas and doing topes and doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
He's got a bag. Yes, he does.
Yes, and he never got to show all of it because you know how WWE is. Yeah, I think about Hulk Hogan, like back in the day, and I know he's a name that makes everybody clench a little bit, but watching his stuff in Japan, he was awesome. Like, that dude was a great worker, very technically sound. He was doing all kinds of stuff, and then he went to the E and started just punching dudes, hulking up and doing leg drops. And he would do like a scoop power slam thing. He would do like the classic body slam. I'm going to lean over, flip you upside down and plant you on your back and your butt. And that was kind of it. And then leg drop you. That's it. And CM Punk called out John Cena's his 5 moves of doom or whatever. And that's kind of it. That's not John Cena's fault for working in a system that's like, no, you're a killer, you're the best we got, you only need these 5 moves to kill people. Roman does those things too now. So I don't really fault him for that. I think on the mic, behind the scenes, in the ring, when you put all of that together, who's better historically? Because like DJ is great, right? The Rock was incredible. Stone Cold is incredible. And as far as money makers, nobody will ever beat them. Crazy entertaining. I think Cena came in a time where people were starting to not watch as much or in the same ways anymore. We hit the PG era after the Ruthless Aggression era, which I think really hurt him in terms of like people watching him, but really helped him in terms of getting himself out there, because he did the Word Live stuff for a couple of years, right? The Thugonomics,
This is Word Live. This is basic Thugonomics.
Yes.
I had that album.
So did I.
I'll have you know, with the title on the cover, the white background. Yeah,
I wasn't even watching. I had to.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
the boat. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think it's almost impossible to say he's not. He's done everything.
Great point about Danielson though, because they have existed, give or take, in the same time frame, and Danielson is one of one too.
He's not the same size. He's totally different kind of wrestler, but I think Bryan Danielson's his mic work is criminally underrated. I can't think of anybody that does it better in a way that I believe him as much. Maybe outside of Eddie Kingston. Maybe MJF, because Eddie Kingston is either, I said this before, he's like 80% to 20% shoot to work ratio, and you can never tell which one's which.
I remember you saying that. That's the ratio.
And it's like I never know if it's real or not, which is what you want. And Danielson's promo this week had me going, okay. But also John Cena is incredible. So in terms of eviscerating MJF, I'm with you. I agree completely. I think it would be pretty even. I think people were given that way too. They're doing the same conversation as LeBron and Michael, which is why I thought it was appropriate. But if you put him in his prime, if you did him in his prime, why are we doing this? You can't. Move on. John Cena is a great actor for what he does. I think he's awesome, which is why I think you would be able to just no sell everything MJF says, just stare at him and just no sell it. But I think that could be a lot of fun. We're never going to see it, but I think that could be a lot of fun. Finally, I hate these conversations so much. They're antagonistic by nature, and they diminish the value of people that are in the conversation by picking one is better than the other, which then negates what the other one is. And I hate that. It's like going like, okay, I decided I like LeBron more than Michael, therefore Michael's not good. And that's the way that it feels. And it's like, why are we doing this? Like, can you just acknowledge that they played different positions in a different era at different sizes? LeBron didn't have to shoot the way Michael shot. He didn't have to do 18 fake outs and then a finger roll. LeBron could just go up and throw it down and then just knock everybody out of the way. I don't understand what we're doing. Michael wasn't chasing down shots like that. He'd steal it before he had to. LeBron could run from one end of the floor to the other in 0.8 seconds and only take 3 steps. He's a dinosaur. So I don't understand why people are comparing it. John Cena is what it is. He's the best WWE superstar of all time, in my opinion. He's not my favorite, but he's the best. And I think it's weird that people are arguing about it over the internet. It's the world we live in, though, Tyler. It's the world we live in. And some things in the world are tough to live with. Some things we can't change. And sometimes relationships fall apart. Tyler, we got to look at what happened here. Proud and Powerful edition, unfortunately. Play the music.
What happened here?
Tyler, go ahead and kick us off here. Proud and Powerful are no more. This was something we talked about briefly, but I think people have hit click by the amount of times I've talked today.
Stop your madness. I also need Mike Santana to stop his madness here, because I'm really excited for his comeback. He put out this video, and you actually put me on to this, man. So thanks for breaking the scoop to me. This was over the weekend. Mike Santana tweeted out another one of these really well-crafted videos hyping up his comeback. And it was titled Part 2, This Comeback is Personal, I Paved This Road. So in this 90-second clip, this video clip, there's B-roll footage of his appearance in the Stadium Stampede match from All In London. And he is saying, for this comeback, I am no longer using crutches. I no longer need anyone. Cue to the B-roll footage of him and Ortiz side by side at All In London. Not side by side as like, yeah, we're here, Proud and Powerful is back, but just them entering together. And he doesn't need a crutch. He needs to do this on his own. That's just the way he wants to do it, solo dolo. Okay, but I'm going to root for him. However, I don't know if Ortiz is. So Ortiz quote tweeted or quote posted this video from Santana just an hour or two later. And he said, and I quote, Brad, "What a way to find out years of having your back meant nothing. Good luck without your quote crutch. Just remember it helped you walk for the last 14 years. Hope your legs are good. Thank you for being honest for once. But you couldn't say it to my face? You know you still can, right?" Finally, Santana quote posts or quote tweets that and says, "Wow, first thing you said to me in 14 months, no text, no call. No, I hope your recovery has gone well, but of course paint me to be the bad guy like you've always done. Guess you forgot about our last conversation about this. Either way, I'm happy and I hope and pray the same for you." Praying emoji. And that's all. So my first thought when you sent this my way, Brad, is I was so tempted to send you the Rihanna work gif. I think that would be wishful thinking on my part. I certainly could see this like any good wrestling drama. I could certainly see this, what seems like reported real life tension for over a year. I could certainly see this becoming a work and maybe these guys having a really awesome one-on-one feud in AEW. We know that Big Arthur Ashe show is coming up. Maybe that's too soon, but I could see this being a work. But for now, Brad, it seems really raw and just makes me really sad that we're possibly witnessing the official breakup of one of my favorite tag teams of the last 5+ years. How did this social media drama land with you over the weekend?
So I was trying to figure out like what actually happened. We knew they had a falling out. We didn't know what it was about. And Nick Hausman, shout out Nick Hausman. I'm assuming that's who did it on the House of Wrestling. That's HAUS of wrestling.com, had an article August 21st entitled Santana and Ortiz Had a Falling Out Over AEW Booking Exclusive. So if you want to find that, we'll try to keep the link in the pod description. Otherwise, you can just Google it and you'll find it. Quote from Conan, who are in with, he's tight with those guys. "I definitely talked to both of them to try to make them mend fences. Ortiz was definitely down to talk. Santana is kind of like me when I was young. He's kind of a hothead, you know? And so he was really adamant that Ortiz didn't kind of stand by him when he thought he should have. And that's a lot of bad feelings. Yada, yada. So from what Santana told me, not getting too much into the details, his whole thing was, I'm going to talk with Tony. And if they're not going to do anything with me, then I have a decision to make. You know what I'm saying? But we're talking about half the roster feels that way. So it was, hey, if they're not doing anything with us. And Ortiz was kind of saying, yeah, it's fine. Just let it ride. And Santana didn't want to. That's kind of it. I'm sure there's more in there and there's probably a dust up because of that. But we've known that this has been a thing for a while. This is not new. Their issues with their personal relationships with each other. I wish it was a work. I love Proud and Powerful as a tag team. They should have won gold, and maybe this never happens. But maybe they don't win gold because this was known. There's so many questions.
I don't know. It was looking so promising when they debuted. I think it was at the original All Out, and they had the masks and took them off, wearing all black. It's like, oh man, this is so New York. This is so good. These guys are now all elite. Yeah, the thing I want to add here, Brad. So I went to that local show, a up here last year in Mesa, that local wrestling show, and Ortiz was one of the prominent names on the card, and he's our size, man.
That's right.
Probably has better cardio than me for sure, but he's our size. He walked right past me, and although I don't think anyone asked him about this drama, I will say that I have a lot of respect for Ortiz. I don't know if I told you this, Brad, because before the show, as you know, wrestlers were at their booths and folks could get merch and get autographs and such, I remember seeing this teenager. He had a backpack with him, and he pulled out AEW action figures. And so he actually went up to Ortiz. This is just mere feet away from me. He went up to Ortiz and asked Ortiz to sign a couple of figures. I think he had both Ortiz editions as well. He came prepared. This kid was probably like 15 or 16, so it wasn't really adorable. It was just like, oh, this kid's very entrepreneurial. And so Ortiz, I don't think I told you this, Ortiz said it's going to be $20 for each figure if you want me to sign it. And the kid put it back in his backpack and did not pay up. So I will always have respect for Ortiz. I thought that was super gangsta and just super appropriate. If this kid was like 5 years younger, then maybe you can get away with the free signature. But I really respected Ortiz for doing that. And it was great to see him live. It just made me further appreciate his talent. And I also appreciate Santana. Like you, I hope this is a work. I hope they can figure it out. But the social media situation just made me think that maybe we're not going to see these guys in a ring together as Proud and Powerful, which is a shame.
Yeah, and I don't think that at this point it's probably not a great idea to have them face off against each other as well. I think we want to see it, but with what
AEW's been going through, I think we'll have them
probably
avoid that
sides of the arena.
Yeah.
But it begs the question: what do you do with Santana and Ortiz as single stars, and what do you do with Ortiz specifically? So there's a lot of questions there that I have about these, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Hopefully, they both are successful in their solo runs. I think there's a lot of potential in both of them, but I wish it was as a tag team.
Yeah, well said. Well, speaking of questions, Brad, I have an AEW question for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
So I popped myself with some of my notes here. What stood out to me this week in All Elite Wrestling, I cannot believe that you can now go on to Pro Wrestling Tees and buy a Neck Strong established 2000, the year 2000 tee. That's nuts. What a time we're living in. Bryan Danielson has a 7-year-old kid, soon to be 7, who he wants to spend time with. So we might be seeing the last few months of him as a full-time competitor in AEW. He might be working that Brock Lesnar attraction schedule in the not too distant future. It's official. We're getting Eddie Kingston versus Claudio Castagnoli in Arthur Ashe. Cannot wait for that. I think it's going to be Eddie's crowning achievement. But I do want to ask you about 2 new rivalries that were introduced to us this week. Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Page, and Jade Cargill versus Chris Statlander. And the question is pretty simple for you, my friend. What do you think about these 2 matchups? And I've been thinking about this for the last 24 hours. And is it too soon to take the TBS championship off of Chris Statlander?
It's a good question. I love, number one, I love both of them. I think this is a great spot for Swerve, but it also helps out Hangman, who, Swerve is right, he hasn't really done anything. He's been around and he's been in trios matches and things like that, but he hasn't really done anything since losing the title. And I'd like to see him get back to that point. He might be an exercise in what would have happened if Sami Zayn beat Roman, where he could have several excellent matches, but ultimately the story is pretty meh if he would have won it. Because his storyline, he didn't really have many storylines, right? His biggest feud was with CM Punk, who beat him. And then after that, it was good with Mox because he got knocked out and all the other things. But ultimately, it was about him beating Kenny. So I think this would be a great kind of notch in the belt for Swerve to beat a former champion, to legitimize his run, and then make him a credible threat for the AEW title. I don't think he should be a TNT title contender. I think he should go after the big belt, and I think he should win it.
You heard what he said to Hangman in the ring. If I received the backing and the push you did, I'd be AEW's first Black World Champion. That's the first time I think we've heard that acknowledged on AEW television, that there have been no brothers have ascended to the very top. Man, I think Swerve is calling a shot there. I think he's going to be that guy
for the big belt. Yeah, TNT which is why I don't think he should go after it, because we had Scorp as TNT champ. So he's not the first male black champion in AEW, but we haven't had the big belt on anybody. I think Kenny's the only one that's not completely a white guy. He's half Japanese or quarter Japanese, but
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. Japanese Canadian, I believe. And then there's we had Hangman, Jericho, Moxley. Now we got MGF, and
maybe Adam Cole next. Who knows?
Maybe Adam Cole next. Maybe Roderick Strong next. Maybe Samoa Joe
next strong. Maybe Samoa Joe.
I would love it if Roddy won it. What a surprise! I think people would lose their minds, right? Like I think
I don't think
a short title run for Roddy Strong, and then have have Wardlow come in there and break his neck, and then have Wardlow have a little bit of a run. I don't know what you do here, but it's got to be Swerve, right? Like
if we get Roddy Strong holding, and I love what he's doing right now. The graphics of him, the everything is great. If we get a Roddy Strong world title run before Swerve, I might just burn everything, man. I might have to. I might have to get sent away on arson charges.
And that's why I think it would be great. So I think watching I think I really like what Brian Cage is doing right now, like a lot, because we know he's talented. He has a great look. I don't love the hawk face paint like at all, but I really like what he's doing in ring, and I like his role, because I kind of hate him. Every time he's on my screen, I'm like, this freaking guy again. And I really hope we get Brian Cage, Hangman Adam Page 2 before we get Hangman and Swerve, because I've been waiting for that one for a long time. You remember?
Yeah, we were on the same wavelength. They cooked at Double or Nothing, that opening match.
So good.
First one with fans back.
The terrible machine mask, all of that came out. But that match, we were like, what is this? And then they went out there and were like, holy crap, this match was incredible.
And now we got Prince Nana. You mentioned LA Knight and his contract. Prince Nana is signed.
You imagine Prince Nana holding the belt for Swerve and coming out, do a little dance.
Oh my God. Daniel Garcia. Who would have thought that you just move your hips and you can just get they're talented guys. They do more than just move their hips. But I think for Garcia and for Nana, they just added the dancing elements to their characters, and they're over like Rover right now. Yeah, this incredible. Hangman v Swerve segment and Jade versus Chris. We know we technically got the Jade versus Chris match, but I think both of these new feuds, I just can't wait to see what that looks like in the ring. Like you, Brad, I agree Swerve needs to come out on top. I think that'd be a great Wrestle Dream match. It's going to be in Swerve's backyard. For Jade versus Chris, I'm
not ready for it. I'm not ready for Jade to take the title back.
Can both things be possible? That I loved her return and I love her choke slam that sent one of the Renegade twins, I think, to just layers underneath the Earth's crust.
Circle of hell.
And the reaction she got as well just made me so happy. It wasn't just you and I that were stoked to see her. That crowd just
talking about the scream in my house at Rare Farms Loop.
I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about her being back. I think both things can be true, and then I'll just pass it over to you for the duration here. I think both things can be true, that we can be stoked that Jade Cargill is back on our screens, but also feel a little bit of hesitancy that I don't want Chris Statlander to lose his TBS championship. To pull the curtain fully back, I was going to come with a hot take for you this week that what Orange Cassidy did with the international championship, I think Chris Statlander can do with the TBS belt. I think her match versus Ruby at All Out was awesome. I loved her contest against Emi Sakura this week on Dynamite. That was great.
Great spot.
So I'm already fantasy booking Chris Statlander holding this thing till like winter is coming, if not later, and just putting out banger after banger. So I'd love to know your thoughts there. To me, it would make a lot more sense for Jade to go after the AEW Women's World Championship. So maybe this is a red herring for us, but I just love both of these women, and I can't wait to see what they're going to cook up for us.
I'm kind of hoping that that Jade shows up next week with Smart Mark Sterling in the back doing a promo. And she's like, that wasn't even about the TBS title. That was about making a statement. And I got more to make. And then that's kind of the end. And then Saraya's got a match and she comes out and just pump kicks Saraya back to England. Like, I could see her doing it too. Saraya taking that pump kick is going to murder Saraya.
I didn't even mention the pump kick from Collision.
Great pump kick.
Pump kick and the choke slam. I don't know. I don't know who's beating Jade, man. She's her.
Yeah, she's a monster in there. And I'm ready to see her have a run, but I think she needs to go after the big title after this. She already made the TBS title. Does she need it again? I don't get it. So just get it away from her and have her go do the other title for a while. And I would love to see that. And if Chris is her kryptonite, that's awesome. Have Chris win the title at some point. Have Jamie come back. Jamie and Jade would be an awesome
Jamie Hayter. Oh my God.
Right.
You mentioned her earlier and I already forgot. Oh yeah, she's on this roster. And when she comes back healthy, she's going to be a problem for the whole division.
Yes. Yeah.
Superstar. Oh my gosh.
But hopefully before that we get Britt in a better spot than she's currently in. I feel bad for Britt Baker, who has done nothing but good work, to just sort of be kind of an afterthought right now.
That's the word I was going to use.
Yeah. And it just sort of seems like the Outcast story is the story right now. It's the kind of the female version of what they got going on with the Bloodline over there, where there's feuding in the faction itself. And Toni Storm, Saraya, and Ruby, great group to have that happen in there. But all they do is tag matches and the same groups of people over and over again. It's boring, which is why I was so happy to see the Renegades in the last couple of weeks getting spots on the main card. And we had Diamante and Mercedes and all these other talent. And to Jade's point, this is something that I don't know if you caught the Athena tweet, the Athena retweet.
Yes, I did actually see that one. Yeah,
I can't agree more. We should be seeing Athena just beating the hell out of people on the main roster.
Yeah, she's behind a paywall.
No, she's great to be on ROH, to be their champion. It makes sense that she's holding gold because she's that good, but also she should be doing that on Dynamite and Collision every week, not on $10 Ring of Honor, which is awesome, but I want to see Athena on my TV more.
Yeah, we got Willow Nightingale, Hikaru Shida, kind of borderline afterthoughts and dropping the title. This division is stacked. It's not due to a lack of talent. Riho, yep.
But then we also have like the limited partnerships or agreements or subcontracts. I don't know, with like who is it? Yuka Sakazaki is in there, I think, and there's a couple of other people that are Joshi wrestlers that are signed on, but you just never see them. And I think they're on Ring of Honor, but like, get them the hell out of there and put them on my TV.
And if I can just jog your memory back to that epic London show, Brad, we know that we got Mercedes Moné. Just speaking of talent who are currently injured, whenever she is ready,
Wrestle Dream.
It's going to change the game,
one, right? It's got to be the one.
If she's
medically cleared.
It's going to be one of them ones. It's going to change the game.
Who does she fight?
Everybody. Jade, Jamie Hayter, every woman we just listed. Yes.
If she has to have a singles match though at Wrestle Dream, who you picking?
Oh gosh. I think her v Shida would be awesome. That's my vote.
Me too. I think that would be the best one out of all of them. Maybe Toni Storm. I think that could be really special. But Shida would be incredible. Riho would be incredible. Mercedes and Riho would be awesome. That would be. I love Riho's crossbody, her diving crossbody, where her hands and her like bottoms of her feet almost touch in midair. The way she extends herself, it's awesome.
She's so good. Yeah, I miss her.
Yeah, I think that could be really good. Ultimately I want it to be Jamie, but I don't know when she's going to be healthy, and it sounds like not for a long time. So
the eventual Jade versus Mercedes match, which we've been fantasy booking for 2 years, like that's going to go hard. I mean
Athena versus Mercedes. I don't know if they've ever fought.
They're going to be printing money, Brad. Yeah. I really can't wait. I know we've had ongoing conversations about the women's division AEW, and again, not the talent, the booking storylines of it.
Yeah.
I really think that heading into 2024. we're going to see the best AEW women's division that we have ever seen to date. Like it's a no-brainer for me. I think the talent, the development, the storylines. I mean, you and I just listed 10 talents who could be champion at any moment you ask them. I can't wait to see what they do here. I hope TK and company don't fumble this, man, because I'm going to need a minimum of 2 women's matches on every pay-per-view. Dare I say 2 women's matches on the weekly programming. This is going to be really, really special TV.
I guess my final thought here is that there's one person that I would like to see her wrestle that they've probably wrestled before, maybe in NXT, maybe in the back. I have no idea. And it's somebody that we haven't seen in a very long time that is still currently signed to AEW and healthy. Serena Deeb, I think, could be incredible. That match could be amazing. Where the hell is she? I miss her. I miss her so much. She fits in perfectly with all the stuff that's going on as this kind of foil, very serious character. She would be good in the Blackpool Combat Club, given all the things. So I don't really understand where she is or why she's not there. But in any case, I think that could work really well. Tyler, we have Collision post-Punk. This is the first fully Bryan Danielson cooked AEW Collision. I just want to know your thoughts on Collision post-Punk and what are your expectations for the show? I personally, I thought it felt a lot different. It didn't feel like Collision to me. It felt like Dynamite to me, but I want to know your thoughts.
Okay, that makes so much more sense because you sent me the text message Dynamite Part 2. Now I'm fully processing. That's my weekend brain. Okay, yeah. It felt different for sure. If there were anyone, okay, so CM Punk is doing CM Punk things. He gets fired. And if you had to call someone up to fill his spot, the fact that Bryan Danielson was there, not only to have the in-ring match versus Ricky Starks.
Amazing.
But amazing. My favorite match on All Out. But also now you can use Danielson's mind as what would seem to be the lead creative force for Saturday nights. I just, if you can't have Punk, what a great next person in the on deck circle to call in. Yeah, this show felt different than the previous Collisions. It didn't necessarily take away my enjoyment. I thought this was a really strong post-Punk debut. Obviously, the Jade Cargill appearance. You had Andretti versus Mox, which, fine TV match. I really like Action Andretti, and Mox was the right person to dethrone Orange Cassidy. I thought the matches they put together were great, though, man. Roddy Strong versus Darby Allin. You had Penta versus Samoa Joe. Predictable outcomes, but really, really great meshing of styles in the ring. I also love that we got the CJ Perry vignette, her words. Yeah, that was really great. That may have been my favorite part of Collisions.
But Lana can't talk.
Yes.
That's what we were told.
Yes, right. Presenting her as CJ Perry sans the Russian accent was great. I thought this really checked a lot of boxes for me, Brad. Maybe we can unpack this. It did feel like Dynamite, but for me, it was the best of Dynamite. It didn't feel stale. It didn't feel like I was seeing several matches that, didn't really matter. Everything here felt purposeful to me. It felt like it was driving storylines forward. We even had AR Fox and Nick Wayne distract Darby. So I don't love the dumb babyface syndrome, but I do enjoy that. That's clearly going to further whatever they have going on there in the soap opera of Darby Allin. So this was a really great episode of Collision. I really thought they kind of ushered in this new era quite seamlessly. How did it land for you, though?
I loved it. It felt way different. Way different. But I still love the intro. Always gets me hyped up. Like, it's so good.
I know it does.
And I can't figure out how Elton John works for what they're doing. Thinking about like what they do for Dynamite with that song.
Light the fuse. It's different.
Yeah, Light the Fuse. Bring the Boom. And they even have Bring the Boom, and then it's Adam Cole doing this. Like, I have all that stuff, and it's very like grungy 90s Raw-esque.
Definitely.
With the vibe. It's gritty, it's gray, it's dark. Collision is super bright colors and Elton John, and there's like the color splashes happening, which reminds me of like the old Dynamite entrance or video packages. Very good. very different vibe, very exciting, very lively, but not like aggressive exciting, like, oh, this is happening, this is awesome. So the vibe feels different, but then the show happens and it's like this could be on Wednesdays and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. Rampage, it's Rampage. And I kind of hate that Mark's not there live to do the promos anymore. I don't get why they went to the packages. Maybe it's because of a travel restriction or I don't know what's going on there, but I miss Mark doing live interviews and not pre-tape video package things. So he must be doing a different role now, but I miss Mark Henry doing the live. It's time for the main event. So I think to your point, the meshing of styles, the promos, all of that, Roddy doing like it's like a slam, choke slam, whatever it was, onto the turnbuckle for Darby.
Kind of like a Uranagi, pseudo Uranagi.
Yeah. He landed on his back because he was going for the back. And then Darby like landed on his shoulder on the apron and then died on the outside. When you see it from the other angle, Darby is so good. He is so good because he was looking down like, where am I going to land on the apron? How do I roll my shoulder into it? And then hit it and took it, went to the floor and knew to roll face down and just sell it like he died. And it was just so perfect. That man is incredible. I think if he got any heavier, he's in the hospital. So that weight works perfectly for the style that he does because I think it helps protect him a little bit. But it's not going to last forever. So Darby, it sounds like his back might be legit injured. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I imagine it is. And hopefully this is leading to a month or two off for him to heal up and recover and just go not do this for a little while and come back to the crowd going crazy when he shows up in the middle of an important feud.
He's got to be on Wrestle Dream as well. Speaking of Washington cats, I think he's got to appear in some capacity. I know they've spotlighted him on previous Washington, events, but I would love to see him there.
Yeah, me too. I know
it's just a run in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it's a ways off. So we'll see what happens. I hope he's there, but if he's not, hopefully he's resting, because what does Sting do during that time? I'm still confused at why Sting is appearing and disappearing so often now. They don't seem to have much of a plan with Sting's last push here. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe this Darby getting killed thing is a way to get Sting back in. You hurt my friend and I'm coming in. And I don't know, because I'd like to see more of him. I know some people are like, no, I'm sick of him. He's old, all this stuff. I'm like, dude, it's Sting. Get all the way out of here. That dude's doing stuff that current like young wrestlers can't do. I don't know why you would be upset about this. The man is his mid 60s and this is like, oh, the table didn't break. Let me jump and do it again. But this time I'll make sure to land on you with all the weight I have.
Yeah, I got no time for those folks. That's so, like what you like, don't like what you don't like, but that's so blasphemous. Like we're really saying, Sting, come on now. Like we're going to get this guy for what, 4 or 5 more months and then he's calling it a career. This is one of the best to ever do it.
It is insane. I'll say this. I think Collision has specific people on it. Miro's on it. House of Black is on it primarily because Punk was on it and he was kind of asked. Punk is gone. Andrade's there now. Glad we got an Andrade sighting finally, because I was like, what are we doing here? He's one of the best in the world.
Keith Lee's not with the Bray tribute
packages now, and hopefully we're coming back. And we have all of these. There's so much talent on this roster, and it kind of feels like they've given all of their attention to 3 different stories. And then everything else is sort of like, we'll give them a story if they need one. Really glad the Dark Order vignettes are back. The recruitment videos are back. And this time they're like legit, right? Like you're like, oh, cool. They're recruiting and it's nostalgic and awesome instead of when they first did it and it sucked because the whole Dark Order was terrible. This feels pretty good. This was cool to see. I really like that. They're back to being heels. I think that's promising. They got to get somebody big to join the ranks, though. It's got to be somebody. I don't know that they have the credibility on their own right, since not doing anything for the past 2 years, to recruit somebody and have them be taken seriously. So I think if they recruit somebody, it's going to have to be somebody big. Also, back to CJ Perry. Did they ever say CJ Perry? I don't think they ever said CJ Perry on commentary. They did on social, right? Like they tagged her and stuff. They're Curly's wife and her right now. I don't know if they don't have a name or if they're just like, nope, you get to be wife. And that's your name. You're Miro's wife, because they just referred to her as the hot and flexible wife of Miro, not CJ Perry. So I'm not sure if they're waiting to see if they should come up with a different name so they can IP that thing or what. But right now she doesn't have a name. She's just the hot and flexible wife of Miro. And that hot and flexible wife had one of the best promos that I've seen from any talent really in a while on there outside of our main roster, main talent men. That was the best women's promo I've heard in a long, long time on AEW television, or even WWE television for that matter. It was incredible. And I just remember the talk. She can't wrestle. She can't talk. She doesn't deserve to be in that spot. She keeps going through the table, so they're burying her because who was it at the time? I can't even remember who it was. Was it Nia?
I think it was Nia Jax. Yeah.
Kept putting her through the table. And then everybody went crazy when she did it finally. I thought that was all awesome. And then she got released in that massive release time in WWE. But she's been gone for like 2 years and she's here. And either she's going to be a manager or an in-ring talent. We don't really know anything yet. We don't know a name. What's Miro's last name? Is it Miro?
It might be.
So like his name is Clive Miro or something.
Clive
like
Miro.
We have no idea any of this stuff. I'm fascinated. They have me, and you can only find out on Saturday. So it's promising. The numbers aren't good in terms of Nielsen ratings and stuff like that, but like, I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, you got college football back. You got the NFL kicking up. It's tough.
Well, there was, I don't remember what it was. SmackDown. I think they said either SmackDown or Raw was up against it too, against football, and their audience numbers actually went up a little bit. Wow. So I don't know that it's really necessarily the way to look at it anymore, but we have all this streaming everywhere, and we have social media and YouTube and all, there's so many ways to just absorb this stuff. If 1 million people watch SmackDown, well, let's just say it's 750,000 people watch SmackDown. I think they're around 2 million usually. So 2 million plus now. But let's just say 1 million people watch. So they're down 1 million people. But the LA Night segment gets 15 million views on YouTube. How do you view this stuff? So ultimately, I know advertisers have to get theirs and all of those other things. But I just find it kind of pointless to compare the ratings and stuff. So right now, I'm just glad we have it, and I'll enjoy it as long as we have it, because it's probably my favorite of the 3 shows.
Yeah. Well, speaking of enjoyment, and speaking of actually being a favorite of 3 entities, Brad, I don't know if you did this purposely, but this is a smooth transition into our latest edition of GI at the movies. Hit the music.
And now, it's time for GI at the movies.
All right, man. I saw the Equalizer 3 starring the boat of acting, Denzel Washington. I'm just going to hit you with some quick ones here, Brad. This takes place in Italy. Of course, we're seeing our main character, our protagonist, Robert McCall, back to fight the bad guys, again, this time overseas. Of course, this hit home for me because my dad is from Italy. So I already kind of went in knowing, that's the right word to use, that this movie was just going to be really awesome. And it was. It currently has a 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. This might be the best of the Equalizer franchise. I say that knowing I need to go back and watch the previous 2. It's been a minute since I've seen those. But this was just peak Robert McCall. You know, if Denzel's leading a film, you're not going to go wrong. What I was most surprised at, Brad, was once the credits rolled, and I felt super satisfied, I realized that Dakota Fanning was in this movie as well. And she plays one of the best supporting actors in the entire project. And this was jarring to me, 1, because I remember Dakota Fanning when she was a child actress, and 2, this is clearly a callback to a movie that Denzel and Dakota starred in many years ago. That, of course, was Man on Fire. So once I realized Dakota's in this and there's that personal connection, I loved it even more. This is a great film, Brad. You got to see it. Denzel versus all the bad guys, kills lots of heels, and he does it all with a beautiful Italian landscape. Check this one out. You won't regret it. Super good.
I'm looking at a picture of her right now, and my mouth is hanging open. I can't believe that's her.
Dakota Fanning.
That's amazing, because she's still this little kid in my head.
She plays Emma Collins, working with the CIA.
That's absolutely wild to me.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
Closing that tab. Yeah, I haven't seen any Equalizer movie since the first one. I think I watched it after it came out of theaters. Rented it and thought it was awesome, and then just had a kid. Here we are.
That
Son
sounds.
kids. Yeah.
Where do you stand on the Denzel sort of discography or filmography? Because are you a Training Day guy? Remember the Titans? I know you're a Denzel fan.
Training Day, Malcolm X, Glory.
Great call.
Those are three of my faves.
Yep.
You have like all kinds. You have Philadelphia. You have all kinds of stuff that's in there. His Rolodex is insane. It's insane. I don't know anything that he's done. I want him to do something that's just pure silly comedy. I want him to do something with like somebody that doesn't make any sense. Kind of like he would probably be more the Gene Wilder in the situation. But when Gene Wilder did stuff with Richard Pryor, we got to find somebody to balance him out, and he can play it all serious and straight. And then just have somebody like, I don't know, probably not Will Ferrell, but somebody like that, put him in there with somebody, given his age. I think Martin Short or Steve Martin, since we've been talking about him a lot lately, would be great. I would love a Martin Short, Denzel Washington, they're two old guys movie where they just, I don't know, it's just pure comedy. I would love to see that because I think it would be different for him. But his acting career is insane. He just puts banger after banger after banger, right? Like that's...
Shout out to Sheamus.
Yes.
Shout out to Sheamus and Kathy Kelly, by the way. I know we both saw the video that they dropped.
I did not see it. I only saw
you did not? Okay.
When am I going to watch this shit? Brother, I'm writing a play for God's sake over here. I got school. I got a 6-year-old. I got resume paper next to me. For some reason, that's an aside, but it's not important. But
Jess isn't trying to watch that either.
No. Well, she might. And then she'll go like, why would you wear something like that to work out? That just seems so uncomfortable.
That does sound like Jess.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I love her. She'll definitely say that.
She'll say it.
Because there's a lot of ass in that picture. And she'll say it's just too much ass.
It's too much.
Sheamus and Kathy.
Sheamus and Kathy Kelly.
It's a Booty Blaster video. They're both bent over in the picture. That was hilarious.
Yeah, they are.
It was hilarious. I love Sheamus. I haven't seen the Workout Wednesday thing. When was the last one I watched? Maybe Live? Because it's kind of the same thing. I watched the Live butt thing because I was at the gym going like, what the hell do I do for my butt? That's going to be a good butt workout. And then I looked up like glute exercises. It was one of the first hits, and I was like,
"Let's go!"
I guess
the algorithm knows you
because it started with Sheamus grunting and going, "Oh my god, this is so painful."
Yeah,
and I was like, "All right, this one will probably work." If Sheamus is in pain, he's in shape. We go throw my butt.
He looks great. I knew for Denzel to wrap us up on this part. I knew that I don't know if we ever talked about Denzel at length, but I knew you would be a fan just from a thespian perspective. Like, this man does it on the big box office films. He does it in the traditional theater community. He's just, we talked about Sting a few minutes ago, Brad. I think Denzel is similar in that whatever he's putting out, man, we just got to recognize this dude. We got to acknowledge him, dare I say, because he's going to go down as one of the greatest. I mean, his son, John David Washington, who is just like having great performances and not just relying on his family's name. Like, he even has a grown ass son who is out here starring in blockbusters and is also great at what he does. So shout out to Denzel. This movie takes place in Sicily. It's very much about drug cartels and firearms, and he's just fantastic in this. Dakota Fanning's great. Highly recommend this one.
I completely forgot about Fallen, which is an underrated movie. That movie creeped me out I Can't Hear That Song Ever Again. And then we have He Got Game, which came out right after that.
Of course.
Ray,
Jesus Shuttlesworth?
Yeah, he was Jake. But yeah, Ray Allen was Jesus.
Right, of course. Yep,
yeah.
yep.
So good. I forgot about the Bone Collector. He went on a tear. Fallen, He Got Game, The Siege, The Bone Collector, The Hurricane, Remember the Titans, Training Day, John Q. That run up to that point is just like, oh, wow. It's insane. Out of Time, Man on Fire, Manchurian Candidate. I forgot about that. Inside Man, Deja Vu, American Gangster, The Great Debaters.
American Gangster. One of my favorite soundtracks.
Yeah.
Shout out Jay-Z. Oh my goodness. I forgot about that.
And then we get into the Equalizer. The Magnificent Seven was not good, but
I never saw that. That's the Netflix one.
Yeah, right? It's not great. Okay. So when I scroll up, the one that I was most looking forward to that I haven't gotten was his project just before the Equalizer 3. Do you know what it is?
I don't.
It's the Tragedy of Macbeth, and it's the black and white one they put out on Apple. I still haven't seen it, and I've been wanting to see it since they put the trailer out like 3 years ago. I just haven't had the time, or just keep forgetting, because it's like, hey, I got 5 minutes. Why don't I watch Raw? So it's like I just have no time for anything anymore. It's crazy.
That's too real. That resonates, man. Well, speaking of catching up on shows and the like, what did we miss from this week?
Oh man, I've been so buried in my own life that I don't even know if I would know what to say for what I missed. I don't even know what I missed. What I miss in particular is The Curse of Oak Island. I hope it comes back soon. My guess is it's November. Looking forward to that. In October, I believe we're going to get We Bought a Funeral Home season 2, which I really loved watching that show. It's like a kind of a quasi British Canadian Addams Family type group. They bought a big old funeral home and then converted it, and they made a reality show out of it. And it's a lot of fun. There's that, and then there's it's probably as close to reality TV as I'm getting, Tyler. And then
I appreciate the honesty.
Been watching Ahsoka, and I watched Star Wars Rebels, so watching Ahsoka is just giving me great joy. For people that haven't seen episode 4, I won't spoil it for you. Anakin's in it. I just did it. It's awesome. It's so good. It's sort of like I've been waiting for this for a long time. This is what I thought the live action stuff would be, and it is now, and it's so good and so compelling. And I want more, and I want more, and I want more. So I have a TV show that's airing next week that I kind of can't wait to get to, and it's one of those I have to watch it. Only Murders in the Building has been fantastic. Cliffhanger City this week. I'm scared because real bad stuff happened, and it's like I don't know what to make of this. I can't wait to see the next episode. It's been awesome. So I got to see Ahsoka. I got to see that. I think those were my 2 breaks this week. And then aside from that, I've been sitting in front of the screen for probably 24 hours out of the week, if you total it up, just being in front of this thing. So lots of good stuff. And you may have missed that Tyler posted an article, which I'm sure you're going to tell us about. So go ahead.
Yeah. Way to put me over, man. I was about to put you over. This is why we work so well together. I'm going to start with yours and then I'll get to mine. So gimmickinfringementpod.com. Brad has an excellent, as always, insightful piece up titled hold on. I don't teach. I'm a teacher.
That's it.
Okay. I want to make sure I give you the respect you deserve, man. Great piece about the first month of the semester for Brad, and a really authentic, vulnerable, I would say, look at what teaching is like, the joys, the perils, the great days, the tough days. I really can't say enough great things about it, Brad. I so appreciate you writing that. I know it was really personal and close to the heart for you. I'm so glad that you received a lot of flowers from it. I know some folks reached out publicly and possibly privately too, to let you know how much you are cherished by not only your students, but colleagues, friends, and everyone. So shout out to you, man. And then thank you for that. I wrote a piece on the business of Taylor Swift. Her Eras concert is slotted to generate $2.2 billion in revenue, which would be a record. It would break the previous one set by Elton John. So really just looking at my relationship to Taylor Swift's music, which is very vicarious. I would not call myself an expert by any means. I don't know if this is not enticing folks to look at it, but I really shared my relationship to her music, which has been usually through other folks. But I listened, I took a deep dive into some of her tracks, threw out some data for you in terms of her concert and her movie that's going to hit AMC theaters, and just recognizing that she's an OG in this game. And I consider her the Roman Reigns of the music industry. She's really running things.
Yeah.
Brad,
Check,
oh yeah, after you, man.
People need to check this out because I learned a whole bunch from this, and it was really good. You did a great job balancing out facts and stats and interesting and compelling, and you wrote it in a very accessible way, which I don't know if that's turning people on to it, but I really liked it. I appreciated it because I don't know anything about Taylor Swift. I actually have a couple of albums downloaded onto my phone because I was like, I just got to find out about her. And I was like, oh, I really like this one. And it's the one people were roasting online as being her worst album. And I'm like,
oh no. Was that Red? Was that the one?
Was it maybe Fairy Tales?
Okay.
It was like her folksy one. She's wearing like a flannel jacket or something in the cover.
Okay.
It's very neutral tone stuff. And people were like, I don't really like this one. It's okay. It's Taylor, but I don't really like it. And I was like, it's the first time I've ever listened to it and gone like, ooh, I respect you and your lyrics. Because usually I'm like, this is derivative stuff. But I really liked that one and it felt really honest. And I liked it a lot. But you did a great job with that. I also held my breath because when you sent me a Taylor Swift article, I was like, oh, Swifties are going to be kicking in your door.
Yeah. Yep. You know how we do. I got to keep you on your toes, man. Well, thank you. And I also, for me, the piece was really interesting because I thought about how her fans have grown with her. Yeah. For me, there are artists where their music was a pretty important part of my life, but then I either felt like I outgrew the music or the music just didn't evolve. I referenced Soulja Boy in the article and how his music didn't really evolve. I had his ringtone. I listened to Kiss Me Through the Phone, but it just didn't change. Like Soulja Boy as a 30-something-year-old isn't really putting out music anymore. That is, I don't know if he's putting out music, period, Brad, but if he is, I don't think it's about maybe what I'm going through now. But back then when we were cranking that and wanting girls to call us through phones or whoever we thought was cute to call us through phones, it made a lot of sense. I just wanted to put out there, anything you wanted to add about your amazing piece, Life of a Teacher?
No, other than like, I've had a lot of trepidation about sharing it on Facebook. Sure. So I haven't, because I'm afraid that people that I work with are going to misconstrue what I'm trying to say there, where I feel like I put over like the profession and how much I love it and how hard it is all at the same time and how much the beginning of the year sucked. But somebody's going to read it wrong and then be like, oh, he's burying the school, which I never mentioned, which isn't it. So I've struggled with that, finding the balance between like, what do I put out there and what do I keep behind the curtain? Because there's some stuff in there that might make it look like not in a good light, which I'm sure every school has that stuff. And I'm sure every school's like, no, don't tell the public about that. It's like, well, you can see it. There's a hole in the roof. It's right over there. You can see the hole in the roof. So whatever. After we got hit by that storm, I was like, yeah, I feel less bad about publishing this now when a damn tornado went through the campus. 120-mile-an-hour microburst ripped us apart. And I'll tell you something now off air that I will definitely not put out there now, but it is, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of bad. There's a balance in between. And I think that's most places. I can't imagine there's not a single place anywhere that isn't a bit of both, where it's really good, really bad, balancing out. And I think that's all we can strive for in our lives, is trying to find that balance.
Yeah, well said. My final list here in terms of the week, Coco won the US Open. Big shout out to her. Yes. Prime and Colorado are 2-0, so a little bit of college football. Biggest story in college football. I know Neon Dion can perhaps be a bit polarizing, but I am rooting for him and his kids there. The WNBA regular season wrapped up, so the playoffs are going to be starting, and we're sure to be discussing it on future episodes. And then finally, Brad, I know this one is close to you. You've just been putting in so much time for the mothership, for 19 Media. Want to give a shout out to our two newest colleagues. That's right, Gerald Brown and NBA great Rick Mahorn launched their new show, Heavy in the Paint. It's available on YouTube and wherever you find podcasts. Very NFL centric. episode. They kind of give a really great preview of week 1 action and really an outlook for the season. But Brad, I know you've been doing some work behind the scenes with them. I'm so glad those guys are on the team. Check them out on socials. And again, check out Heavy in the Paint.
Yeah, well said, man. The only other thing I'll throw in there is I'm happy for Jessica Winchester's Detroit Lions, who beat the Kansas City Chiefs at home after a Super Bowl year, 21-20. Pretty incredible.
They did that. I was invited to a pick'em fantasy football type thing that I actually said yes to, Brad. Wow. And I picked Kansas City to win. So my foray into fantasy football, first time ever, is not going well at all. I picked the Cardinals to lose.
That feels like
make it up.
Fantasy football, Tyler. That feels like what you were playing is pretend gambling.
They're different, right? Pick'em is the easy version, which I need.
Pick'em is, fantasy football is you got to make a team, you got to get a roster.
And you gotta, I don't have time. No. Pick'em. You're right. Pick'em is not even fantasy. It's a separate.
Yeah.
It's the rookie mode, and fantasy football is like the, I don't know, all-star.
Yeah, I kind of miss it. I kind of miss fantasy.
You really?
Football. Yeah, it's just like I don't really miss doing the fantasy football stuff. And if you play fantasy football, share your thoughts on this. Yeah. I just miss my Sunday where I get to sit down with Jess and watch Red Zone for basically the entire afternoon and then lead into Sunday Night Football. And living out in the desert, people are, it's hot out there. It sucks out there. Buddy, Sunday Night Football is done at 8. I don't have to stay up to 11, 11:30, overtime, midnight, maybe later on Monday nights. You got a 1 a.m. game. Nah, I'm in bed by like 9:30 latest. It's amazing out here. Till the time changes, then it's going to suck again. But we get those first like several weeks, about half the season, where we just get early football, and it's absolutely rad. So I love it. I miss it because I don't really watch very much, but I caught the Chiefs game and the Lions game when I was trying to find something to put on while I did some work. And I was like, oh, what's on Peacock right now? And then that popped up. So decided to stream it and missed the audio for half the game because it kept buffering.
Unacceptable. I've been there. I don't think I'm ever leaving Arizona, Brad. You're so right about the games being on at a decent time. That's for our East Coast friends and dare I say fans, that's tough out there. Staying up till midnight to watch some sports. I don't know.
Kickoff at 10:15.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nope.
No, 10:15 a.m.
A.M. Oh, A.M. Okay, yes. A.M.
Yeah.
All about that.
Yeah, we get the 1 o'clock kickoffs or the one. It's usually like 1:15 for some reason, and we got 10:15 out here.
Yeah,
all day.
Complain, man. We got it. We got it nice out here. Well, speaking of football, I think this episode was about as long as an NFL game. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. We thank you so much for being here. As you may have heard, you can find our articles on wrestling, pop culture, and much more by visiting gimmickinfringementpod.com. You can also follow us on the former Twitter, now X, at GIPod19. Brad's on there at Winduster, as am I at Tyler J. McDowell, and we hope you'll join us again for the next edition of GI. Gimmick Infringement is a part of 19 Media Group. You can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube via the 19 Media Group channel. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.